will you sing on a karaoke and why?
So I think that probably what would sound the best would be a weird sea shanty, because that's like that's the range that my voice can handle probably the best. I found that out in a weird way. But actually, the song that I would like to sing if I could hit the notes would be "The Heart of Life" by John Mayer, because I love the message of that song. That it says, the refrain is, because I know the heart of life is good, and I just love that. I will pass. Oh wow, who should I pass on to? Gene.
Yeah, I'm gonna have two answers. I would probably want to sing "Somebody's Watching Me" on Rockwell, because I always feel like somebody's watching me, so that would be a truthful song. But I'd probably sing "Rocky Raccoon" the Beatles, because it's like my favorite song. And it's a good one. So, and they talk about Gideon's Bible.
Before you pass it on, so the thing also, the call to action is to share one of the songs or the song into the community hall, so we all can go back to the songs later on. Pass it on, Jin.
I will pass it on to Aloysius.
Hello, Aloysius. The question for today is, if you're in a karaoke and you have to pick a song, what song will you pick and why? If you can't talk, oh, there you go.
Whoa. That's a big one. What am I listening to right now? This sounds like one of the boy bands. Oh, God. On the spot, I got nothing. I think, oh, no, I lied. Queen Herbie. There's a song by Queen Herbie that I would probably sing, and it's called, I forget what it's called. Oh, BDE. It's Big Dick Energy. But the song itself is like, I don't take crap from no one. And the lyrics in it is like some of the best rapping I've ever heard. And it's like, yeah, it's just a song that I enjoy a whole lot. And it's kind of like one of those ones where you start singing it and people are like, holy crap, where'd that come from? So I think that would be my song. I don't know who has it gone yet. Are we pretty new here to start, right?
Sure. I can pass it for you.
Okay, yeah, no, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. LBS. How about you?
I love to sing, and when I'm doing karaoke, always choose Moon Dance. Well, it's a marvelous night for a moon dance, with the stars up above in your eyes. It's a classic. It's always a crowd pleaser, and it actually matches my range. There's a lot of like pop songs sung by women that I just can't sing. Yeah, I will pass to Bear 100 because I like your name.
Bear, are you there? In the meantime, you fix your mic. I will pass it to Benz.
That was really good, LBS. That sounded good. I won't try to sing mine. Mine is Notorious B.I.G. Big Papa in the style of Robert Goulet, a la Will Ferrell. That's my go-to, though. I'll pass to Mount Manu.
Thank you, Vince. There's just no question about it. I would sing "It's Gonna Be Me" by NSYNC, and probably, yeah, maybe like a Backstreet Boys one, like "I Want It That Way," just something. And I would probably strip to it too. Not that one, but the "It's Gonna Be Me" one. I just get so pumped with those songs. Can someone please bring back the 90s? No, you cannot, but we can try. Anyway, I thought it was a good idea if we're having music, why don't I just put the songs that people would karaoke to? And we don't have to karaoke to them, but we can each take a turn in enjoying them. So Moondance is next, and Big Papa is coming up as well. Yeah, so I'll pass it to Bear 100. And really good question, Edu, by the way. Awesome.
Thank you, Bear 100. How about you, Livy?
I was absolutely shy to sing too for so long, but it was my dream. Like I always wanted to sing. And then I had this, it was so hard. But then now I've been a little bit better. I started singing a lot by myself, and then it creates the courage. And then posting sometimes, on social media that you're like still not in front of people, but then people can see it, and then you see the comments. And yeah, so now I've been singing a little bit more. There's a Brazilian one I like. It came to mind now. It's a forró song that it's very like for people to dance in pairs. An old song I'll put in the chat. And I'll pass to Anne.
Hi, everyone. I guess this is my first Communitas meeting, and I'm an anthropologist. I work with Livy on the TEC case studies. Yeah, so I would, for karaoke, I would sing Jamiroquai, Virtual Insanity, just because I feel like it represents my state that I feel all the time, observing DAOs and observing blockchain and Web3 ecosystem. So that's just how I feel, and I agree with Mount Manu, bring back the 90s.
Thank you, Anne3, and welcome to this call. If you have any question along the lane, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask right away. And Costa, how about you?
Hello. I think I'll probably sing some Shakira song because I don't have a really good memory, and the Shakira songs, I listened to them a lot when I was a kid, so I know them all by heart, and I think they're really fun. So probably Fiega Sordomuda or something like that, which is more like the classical hits.
Thank you.
I'll pass it on to, I don't know.
Ginese is the last one.
Aloysius? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having internet issues. Well, I have tried that. And my song would be Fix You, the Coldplay. A Coldplay one. Yes. I think it shows the bittersweet contrasting. I like that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginese. In my case, I think there are two that I like sad songs in public because it brings unexpected reactions from people. And there is one from an Argentinian singer called Mercedes Sosa, and she's singing this song called Volver a los 17, which basically means coming back to being 17. And it's a very melancholic song and for me it was a very important song in my teenage time. And nowadays I will probably sing Alive by Sia because I feel that song gives me like so much desire to live that I will sing that song probably in a karaoke too. So thanks everyone. This was inadvertently a consequence of Aloysius' tweets because I saw some tweets about NFTs, music NFTs. So that's why the question is this one today. So thank you, Aloysius, for that. And Anne3, welcome to this. You wanna introduce yourself a little bit about any expectations, any intentions that you have for this call, or something that you would like to know right from the start before we start the meeting?
Yeah, Livy invited me here. I was just curious to know how you guys are thinking about onboarding, what challenges you're facing, what solutions and strategies you have. Yeah, it's just very open. I have no expectations. I'm just like here to get the feel for the culture.
Nice, and I hope you get that from this meeting. And it's really nice to have Aloysius and LBS here today, because we are going through this process of remember LBS when you created this article about personas and all these conversations that we had about it. So we have had a follow up, and on Communitas text channel, I share a link. Welcome, Tonga, to the Communitas working group call. I shared a link on the Communitas text channel because that's the document we're going to take a look today. It's a little bit too extensive, but Gideon, do you would like to give a brief short summary about the state of the document and for LBS and Aloysius to be up to date, and also for Anne and for the rest of the folks here who may be new, and then we can get into a little work session about it.
Sure. And just before I forget, for people who are not used to listening to music, you can't, it's that little orange and white circle. If the music's too loud, you could just right click and then that'll drop the volume. I'm going to share my screen and just one sec. Okay, is that coming up okay? Can people see that? Yeah, okay. So so I'm just going to go through really quickly like the kind of the frame of this just to catch some folks up, and then just touch on some of the changes that were made as of this week based on the conversations from last week. So this is the overview, which is basically just kind of looking at the core responsibilities of Communitas, this working group. So it's newcomer onboarding, that's where we've been focused so far. Newcomer engagement, which is community engagement, but also working group engagement. And then working group development, that's a longer term thing, which is basically us potentially serving as kind of like a service organization that's helping the working groups while just basically keeping the control in the working groups in terms of how they engage and develop people, but acting more as like assistant. And then community development is just kind of like some of the stuff we're doing right now, which is developing the tools and processes for the overall community, and doing onboarding and member development, and then kind of maybe some longer term processes for doing that kind of member development, what that might look like, how people can grow professionally and personally. This next section, so I'm just basically going to these little tabs on the upper left, and that navigates you around. So the next thing that's worth looking at, well, actually, let me just do this. So this is kind of the next overview thing, which is like a description of the phases of people moving through becoming a member. And then this is kind of related. And then these next ones start to dive in more deeply into like in this case, the TEC onboarding process, looking at goals, outcomes, values, those kinds of things. And then it starts to dive into like more detailed workflows. Okay, so we're not going to go through all these workflows today, but we're going to dive into one of them, which is what Edu and I were working on last week, which is the education aspect. So just popping back, well, let me just stop there because, yeah, let me just take a breath and stop and see if there's any questions.
It's not a. Can you go back to the previous one where we had all the? Yeah. This question. One? Yeah. As much as I've come to realize that a lot of people are coming in newcomer for consulting or for funding, and that is like a different type of need than onboarding or engagement. Consulting doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, ideally, yes, they want like a token engineer to, hey, like how are you going to split up the different funds, like what percentages are going to go into treasury, what percentage for contributors, etc. All that implies. But other people just want to go into the advice process and sort of like navigate the politics around the different token holders, or they join different calls to start, bouncing up the idea, what they post in the forum, things like that. So it's just a suggestion to consider a section that is newcomer, and it can be consulting-funding, or we can come up with a word that encapsulate those two things. So that's just something. And I just had a call previously that dealt exactly with that. So I just wanted to add that there.
That's great feedback. Thank you. One of the other ones that's missing that Edu and I were noticing last week, based on some of the feedback, is token holder, right? Just like somebody who's a token holder and maybe doesn't want to go through all of this stuff, right? So that's another one. Okay. Any other, before I go to the next phase, any other comments or questions? Okay. So let's dive in. This is this question of the roles that people go through as they're being onboarded into the TEC. And there was some really good feedback last week from Livia and from Septimus in particular. There was a bunch of good feedback, but there were some things that really made us simplify and kind of change these things around a little bit. So the first thing, before I kind of describe where we ended up, I want to note what those comments were. One was from Livia, which was like, hey, this is great, as kind of like a general path. It's good to have kind of like generic paths or kind of go-to paths, but we want to keep this flexible so that somebody can maybe not fit into the standard way of doing things. We want to be able to allow some flexibility. So this is right here, what we noted is that people basically, they come in some cases, they're going to be matched, they're going to be met by a guide, and they'll kind of walk them through the, which working groups they want to join. There's this idea that Nick has introduced, which is kind of like peer-based wayfinding, which at some point in the future we'll talk in more detail about. That's basically kind of like collaborative wayfinding, and then finding your own way. So that's this third path, and then that takes you into joining a working group, one or more working group. The other comment was from Septimus, which was, hey, not everybody's going to join a working group. There are going to be people who are going to just come in as community members, and they're either going to deliberately choose not to join a working group, or maybe they just, want to just hang, and it's not a choice. They just haven't made that decision yet. So we added this path of choosing not to join a working group. And when we did this, the whole thing kind of simplified, because before we were calling this process here of moving from being a newcomer, you go through the self-learning process, orientation, you're doing an initial community offering, which I want to clarify in just a second. And then at the end of that, you become a community member. We don't call them, we may have some internal tag for new community member, but we decided, actually what we're recommending, we didn't decide anything. What we're recommending is not calling people new community member, right? Just call them a community member. If they pass through this stuff, they're a member. And then they would go down to this this next level. And if they don't decide to join a community, a working group, then they're still a community member. That hasn't changed. That's like once a community member, always a community member, unless you do something egregious. But if you go through this process of becoming part of a working group, then you are a community member and a contributor. So I'm going to stop there and pause just for a moment and see if there's any comments or reflections or questions.
Five, 4, 3, 2,
I mean,
1.
is in differentiating between a community member and like a stakeholder, which would be like a token holder, or a client, as in like somebody who's looking for consulting services? Or is there any value in differentiating that, or is it better to just accumulate everybody into a conceptual community member?
The idea, sorry.
ahead.
The idea is that everyone, no matter if you are going to be, let's say, an investor, a VC, or a partnership, or whatever, you will go through the same layer of knowledge that anyone else, as a way to horizontalize access to. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much money do you have, doesn't matter if you belong to a top DAO or to a new DAO, or just alone in the world. You will go through the same process. And I think part of what is key here is the concept of the initial community offering. We would like to explain it so people also can understand the meeting.
Yeah, so the idea of the initial community offering is it's basically this idea that we want to ground this economy into like being more of a giving economy, like a gift economy. And this is also the notion of being a stakeholder, like actually having a stake in the community by doing something first. So when, a gift economy, the idea is you don't receive the gift first, you give first, right? That's what we're trying to kind of inspire here, is this idea that you kick off a gift economy by giving first. And so in this case, when you go through a process of self-learning, you go through the orientation process, which is like signing you up for accounts and things like that. And then the initial community offering, we want to make this basically a way for people to express themselves. And so new members, what we're exploring here is this idea that before you become a community member, we're going to have some prompts for you, and there'll be a lot of them. They might be questions like, after you read about the TEC, what makes you most excited about becoming a member? It might be, how would you explain token engineering to your grandparents? Or it might be, what is it that, paint a picture of the future of token engineering. Whatever, we'll come up with some interesting questions. And what people can do is they can do whatever they want to answer the prompt, right? They can tell a story, they can do a little mini essay, they can draw something, they can take a photo, they can sing a song, they can do whatever, they put a video together. I mean, we wouldn't want to limit them in terms of their creative expression, but the idea would be that they would then post that in like a particular channel as a kind of a way to show their first offering to the community. Keep it light, keep it fun, keep it expressive, keep it human. So that's the basic idea.
Thank you, Kirin. Does anyone has any comment regarding this part before we continue? 5, 4.
Yeah,
Yes, Libby.
I love that so much. It's really a great idea. I wonder, we tried to do that too in the governance research group, that one of the exercises was like, share your understanding of this system or this model in an intuitive way, and you can use any type of medium to express that. And I felt like we were so excited. YGG and I thought about it, and we were so excited to see what people were going to come up with. But then people were shy, I think, of like that, for that, like giving that much freedom. It feels so amazing because you want to see what people will come up with. But maybe we can offer some examples. Maybe we can have some plans, people that are like from the community, that they share something. a little more vulnerable, like a song about something, and then we could create a collection of that already to give some examples and help with that. But I love the idea.
So the initial thought was that the stewards will be leading by example, by sharing their community offering first as a testament for the rest of the people who will come later on. That was one of the ideas yet to explore. Aloysius, you muted yourself. Would you like to say something? All right, no problem. The next part that I wanted to have is a conversation, Livy, and probably maybe another space, but this is an open conversation to anyone. I pitched this idea just yesterday on Friday to Tam, which is to build a narrative around praise, and this is something I've been quite insistent for the past month. And the idea is that we were talking about what makes you a TEC member, and Tam mentioned that we probably will like to use a different concept because membership, it's something from the legacy system, and probably for DAOs, member is something that it doesn't fit the mold that we're trying to build. But part of this conversation was I was saying being a token holder doesn't make you a community member. Being a token holder makes you and give you access to governance, and that's it. It doesn't bring anything else. But being part of the praise means that you are being part of our culture, means you are being part of our social layer, and it means also you're part of the reward system. So for me, in what I was trying to explain is that what makes you a community member is the fact that you are part of our praise system, meaning that you have to connect your praise with your wallet or your Discord account or whatever. And I was looking forward to hear if you have any thoughts regarding that idea, Livy, or anyone else for that matter. Yeah, basically that distinction between token holder and community member, basically.
I would love to hear, and if you have any thoughts on that from like an anthropological perspective of what being a member of a DAO consists of.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tricky question. Like I've done some research in more service-oriented DAOs, and like for them, security is like the needs and kind of like concerns of like service DAOs is very different from something like a TC, right? So usually there, like memberships is more enclosed, and like holding governance tokens is what constitutes membership, whereas here in the TC, it seems like it's about the culture, right? And it's about like creating like more collaborative culture. So I don't really have like an answer. I'm just seeing, like, it's interesting to me to see how different DAOs are approaching the meaning of membership, and it seems like with the praise system, it signals towards like a very particular value here. Yeah.
I wonder if it could be like thinking that a commons is community plus cultural practices plus shared resources. If a member is someone who is participating in this three layers, like they're part of, they join some of the community activities, or maybe there's something related to the resources, like are they using the resources and contributing to the provision of those resources? And the resources can be not only financial, but like any type of value that is aligned with our mission, perhaps. It all gets super abstract. But to answer your question, I think it's a good point to be like, oh, if you're part of the reward system, you're a member.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Jin.
I'm just kind of wondering if it could potentially have an unintended consequence of like creating a barrier to entry. But is that something we want as like a minimum contribution of understanding the culture, or could it serve to be something that prevents people from participating because they need to buy into or accept a kind of a cultural minimum understanding? It seems like a lot of DAO people that are attracted to this kind of model might be a little antisocial, but is that something we want to discourage, or yeah?
I think it's interesting, the idea. I remember Gideon saying something on Friday regarding public systems and accessibility. Like what we can foster is the idea that all these systems that we're implementing, reward and or any other kind of social system or decision making system that we implement and make part of our cultural layer of our community, we make sure that it is public and we make sure that it's accessible for everyone. So the barrier to entry is the lowest that we can, give access to. Uh, for me, there is a natural filter to the fact that it's token engineering community, and it's such a niche kind of field that if you arrive to this corner of the Web3 by itself, it's like a filter because you arrive here. But that won't be the case all the time, as you say, Jean. So I think for me, it will be give accessibility as much as you can and keep it public and keep it like in a way that there is no way to you to not to see it. And even if you don't see it, the human aspect of the TC will give you access to it because you will see it ingrained in our meetings, ingrained in our Discord. So and going back to what Livy mentioned, I think this idea of the layers, if you are part of the decision making layer, if you're part of the cultural layer, if you are part of the resource layer, you're part of the community. If you feel all 3 layers, I feel. Back to you, Gideon.
Well, I ran into an article late last week by Kelsey Nabin and Michael Zargam. It's a brand new article about permissionlessness, and it's really good. It actually inspired me to do some deep thinking over the last few days. And one of the things that they talk about is that permissionlessness is they're not just talking about DAOs, they're talking about socio-technical systems, but DAOs are an example of that. And they say that basically, what permissionlessness is the ability to use, build or contribute to, and then govern these systems. And that the ability to access those things, to use, build, and govern a DAO in this case, is something that is permissionless. Like, you don't have to get permission from anybody to do that, but you have to agree to adhere to the protocols of that system. And so I think that what Edu and I are offering here as a suggestion is that's like this process right now of onboarding, helping people to be educated, helping them to be oriented, is kind of like the base level operating instructions for adhering to the protocols of this community, right? It's like you can't really agree to those things unless you understand at least at base level what those are. Do that, and then you're a member. And that kind of training, that will expand over time. Like, your depth of understanding about the culture and the systems and things like that will have to continue to grow over time, but at least at base level, we want members to kind of have like a core understanding. That's kind of the essence of what we're talking about.
Does anyone have something else to comment regarding this before we continue? 5, 4, 3.
I do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I feel like a broken record because I say this in all the spaces I go and in all the conversations just because I'm like certain that it's the root. Kelsey and MZ's piece on the permissionless stuff just like still solidified it for me. Everything that I hear that's under the context of this stuff is consent. And it's that our cultures lack an awareness to consent. And I feel like a jerk almost when I say it, because I feel like I'm not giving it the context it deserves when I speak to these things about consent or boundaries, because it's like really deep. It's like diving in and repatterning yourself to not be in service to others, but to like be grounded in your own identity and your yeses and your nos and your whatevers, all the things in our culture that has made it a challenge for us to be our authentic selves, because of the extractive environments we're in. It's like we can't actually have permissionless things unless we have consent, and we can't have consent until people understand it, and it's in our culture. We don't have consent unless people have an understanding of boundaries. Like when I speak about boundaries, it can be broken down into a lot of layers. It's like your intellectual boundaries, your time boundaries. Like there's so many different kinds of boundaries, and everything we do and all the interactions we have hit upon lots of those little nodes, especially in these spaces. So when you're moving around and trying to navigate accessibility, you're pinging upon a whole bunch of those. So it's just like, yeah, I think there needs to be a culture of consent built, and an understanding of consent and boundaries, honestly, before anyone can be having any of the conversations we're having in any of these meetings about any of the things. Like that's just what my heart keeps like telling me and thinking, because I know from not knowing what those things were to like learning about them and being like, holy crap, and then realizing how many other people don't know about all of them makes it so obvious why we end up in conflict, why we have communication issues. It's because of that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. So that's my nugget. I keep saying these things, and it's like I could lean into them, we could dive into them and do stuff with them, but I don't know how to take it further. I don't know how to like take my spoons and like put this information out there, but I think it's the thing.
I will say, all issues, that it will be a great of help once we start deploying. Like, let me take a step back. This process that it's on the beginning of what Gideon is showing on the screen regarding self-assessment and the tests and community offering, I think unconsciously maybe, but they are meant to build this idea of knowledge about the context where you are getting to dive about, just about to dive in, and to give you a sense of the cultural also layer that we have, the culture of gratitude and all this stuff. So it will be really interesting to see that once we have put into a product or into a practical consequence this part of the process, if you can jump in and say, hey, this is lacking this part of consent, or this is lacking this, or maybe you need to add another layer or another section, or maybe the text is not very welcoming for people to know that they are entering into a permissionless space. So I think it will be very interesting, and I think it will be a very practical put of your spoon, if I want to follow your thoughts into this. If you take a look at this, even in this abstract form that it is now, it will help a lot your feedback and understanding if this has enough of consent for people to understand what they are getting into, because this is something I'm trying to stretch a lot into understanding, that we need to have enough openness, and but at the same time giving enough tools for people to understand what they are getting inside, what they are actually accessing when they enter the community. And I feel this very explicit, but at the same time metaphorical exercises like the community offering will give you that feeling, and that's what we hope it will give you, this sense of, oh, I'm entering this kind of community with this kind of values and with this kind of consent. But this is only what we expect. We actually don't know yet if it will happen. So it's a trial and error, I feel. Back to you, Gideon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I mean, just as a note on this, Aloysius, like I don't know enough about consent, right? So it would be great, as we're starting to go to the next level of like detailing like the kinds of values and things that we're trying to help people understand, then yeah, we need to incorporate that. Thank you. So let's go back to this diagram, and I just want to show one other thing. I had an earlier version of this that Edu gave me some feedback on. It looked kind of obscene, the first version of it. So I cleaned it up a little bit. Let's not get into this. This is what was my attempt to kind of like map out what Kelsey and Michael were describing about these kind of using, governing, and building, but let's not get into that. This right here on the left is really just a simple thing. It's basically looking at, like, in terms of kind of like numbers of people, the band of newcomers at any given time is going to be relatively small. You know, it's basically like a 1 or 2 week process of somebody moving, ideally between, you know, from a newcomer to a community member. What this is trying to show is that the number of members of the community, like the size of this community, could end up becoming very, very large over time. The number, but and probably much larger than the number of people who are actively contributing to the building. So if you do think about that idea of using, governing, and contributing or building, there probably will be a whole bunch of people, if we're successful, there'll be a whole bunch of people using the TEC and whatever services we end up building. And then there will be another set of people who will need to be much more deeply infused with the values and the practices of what it's like working and contributing to this community. So that's what this is trying to show. Pausing now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. If anyone has any question, I want to make up a small pause to ask Tonga. Tonga, would you like to introduce yourself to the rest of the folks here before we keep going? And if you have any question.
Hello, how are you? So much time no see. No, I don't have any questions. I was just seeing what the TC is up now. I've been looking at the board on ZenHub, the one that is pinned, and I see there is many issues to do. I'm not sure if those are real issues or those have been there forever, or the DC is interested in doing them now. And those are a few questions.
Thank you so much, Tonga. And I love the birds in the background.
Sorry.
No. I love the sounds. It reminds me of my hometown. I think here, Mao Manu, the guy with the pink screen at the moment, he can help you with that on the processes of finding which issues are open and which ones are closed. So he will probably, you can reach him out, or he will probably reach you out, and you can sync on about these issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I have a...
Yeah. So nice to see you here.
Not sure who she's talking to.
To you.
I was talking to you. I was saying welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah. So I have also a friend that is an engineer, but is getting into programming, and I want to get him into the TEC since he's an engineer, but he has a bit trouble with English. Like, he's a bit shy. He understands, but so if I could take tasks to do between me and him, and I kind of talk in behalf of him, yeah, we could maybe work together. Or what do you guys think would be the best way for him to get into the TC?
I think we can do a sync, you and I, and I mean, depending on how familiar you are with everything around the TC, I can do an onboarding, or I can just show you specifically what you're looking to find or how you're looking to contribute. And yeah.
I've been in the TEC, like last year I participated a decent amount, so I know, but it's all changing very fast, so maybe, yeah, I need a sync.
Okay, then just like an update on the things that that we've built and developed since you stopped being active, and then I can show you around the different issues that we have right now, and
Sure.
depending on your skills or your expertise or your talents or your interests, you can pick the ones you want to contribute.
Okay.
But we'll do that. We'll do that separately.
Yeah, I'll just DM you, and whenever you can, we do a session.
I've DM'd you already. I beat you to it, so we'll continue there. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. Gideon, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, so this is the last part. This is where it gets a little bit more nitty gritty. So this is diving into this part right here, the self-learning in the onboarding process. Okay, so we're looking at education workflows. So here, this is the very beginning. Newcomer comes in to the TEC server. They can then jump in and go directly to learning about the TEC. And then this kicks off a newcomer self-learning process. This is where we have some real questions for all of you. What we were exploring is something actually that Manu, this was, well, Edu came up with this on his own, but it echoes something that you said to me in a call, is, we're not sure how people are going to react to being tested. On the one hand, like there are a lot of reasons to do it so that we can have like a consistent set of understandings across people about like how to actually work in this, how to be and work in this community. There's like all these reasons for doing that. But, it could probably come off in a negative way if we don't do it the right way. It could come off in a way that might alienate some. And so we thought that there might be kind of a nice approach here of kind of giving two paths for people, the lightweight path and then the advanced path. So lightweight path might just look like, working with VibeIB to build some type of Discord-based bot where you just basically kind of go through a series of questions and it's relatively lightweight. And the idea would be like, there's no wrong answers. Like, it's not that there's no wrong answers. Let me phrase that. What I'm saying is, if you get the answer wrong, you're just simply you're prompted to go look again and then answer it again, right? That's one option. And at the end of that, then the idea would be that you get, there's some internal remapping of the role in Discord, but it doesn't probably show up as changing your public role. The other option would be something that's a little bit more in depth, right? Where like a 100-level course in in school, like not quite like that, but you actually really are going to have to go and study up. You're going to have to go dig into the TEC and understand the culture, understand the processes and things like that. And then you take a quiz or test at the end of that. And in that path, you might actually earn something like a POAP or something like that. The idea with both of these, though, is that this is not just like a one and done kind of one-time thing, right? This will lead to kind of an ongoing set of kind of educational and personal and professional development processes that we end up building over time. And Edu, do you want to talk about the quizzes that you're exploring? What was it? You're thinking about doing these weekly or semi-weekly meetings.
You pass it to me? Yeah. So, sorry, I was distracted. So we are gonna probably post a proposal on the forum for this, but the idea is that we have a budget for a um, special projects, and we were thinking on the bigger spectrum that it will be nice to have a trivia, like the same way One Hive has it, probably monthly based. And the idea is to have this fun space to just earn a bunch of TC tokens. And the idea would be to also have a social space for people who has knowledge and they don't want to contribute, or they don't have the bandwidth to contribute, but they have the knowledge. They were hatchers, or it's kind of a fun way to not a fun way, like a fun approach to the parameters we used to have, because in the parameters you will test people's sort of knowledge, and they will learn, and they will be able to sort of engage into our culture, engage into the plug-in into the educational part that comes from debating. The trivia, it's aimed to the same goal, probably monthly. So that's something that I will post on the forum in this week. And yeah, so the idea is that people understand from the very beginning that education could be part of our culture, because it's not yet strongly, but it could be part of our culture. And we will have it in fun ways. We will have it from the beginning. We will have across the process of being across your journey in the TEC, you will have different spaces where you can learn through trivia rather than quizzes or tests, because it's not a test really, it's just a trivia. If you fail, it's okay. If you succeed, it's also okay. If anyone has feedback regarding this, please. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Back to you, Gideon.
Yeah, I that's basically it for this week. But I do want to maybe encourage people to think about this a little bit. This philosophy about how do we assess people's knowledge about our community, and whether or not they really do understand what they're getting involved in. Like, how serious are we about it? How fun? Like, we're kind of leaning more towards the fun side of it. That this should be something that's fun. And there's not really a punishment. There's not really no, you got it wrong. Your score is this. That this is more of this is like a service to you to kind of just self-test your own understanding of this community before you get into it. But I would encourage you all to just, if you have a moment over this next week, provide some feedback, either comments in this document, or maybe just post something in the Communitas channel. Whatever it is, we would really like some feedback on this.
And to add to this, besides the feedback that is always appreciated, we will probably post this as an advice process down the line. Part of these steps all of these steps require community consensus, but in general sense, we want to for some changes, like the onboarding changes, and there will probably be a bunch of people who will get lost in the process, or that don't understand it. So we will put this probably in a few weeks. I am aiming, I don't know about you, Gideon, but I'm aiming at the end of this month to have this as an advice process, on part of this, at least on the advice process on the forum. So yeah, that's about it. So we have 5 minutes left. Does anyone else have something to comment regarding? Yes, Aloysius, go ahead.
Yeah. Can we do what just happened a little bit ago with the consent and boundaries, and make a thread in the Communitas channel with this document in it, so we have a place to just dump dialogue and thoughts, kind of? Is that possible?
Sure. Yes, of course.
Thank you.
And for everyone, we also meet on, it's a tricky time, but it's just I have no life, so for me it's fine. I meet on Fridays with Gideon, 7 p.m. CET. If you feel to join in our sessions, feel free to join. But yes, we can do the thread on if you can do it, Gideon, to open the conversation regarding this. Is that okay for you? All right. In the 5 minutes left, just before clarification, does anyone else have something else to say or comment on this? 5, 4, 3, 2, Also, and if you have any thing that needs to be explained, or you have any question down the line, please don't hesitate to comment. So I think your point of view is also very valuable here. So it will be lovely to hear your feedback from all this.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you. And for the rest of the agenda, there is Tam is not here, so we're not going to talk about the Taoist. I was hoping for her to share a little bit about it. But the other thing is the Writers Guild is looking to talk about Gideon can explain better than I do, but talk about people and the onboarding experience for folks here in the TEC and their journey on the TEC. So part of this is also engaging with people, with folks who were here in the past, but they aren't here anymore, or they are not engaging here anymore. I have a list of people, but if any of you have or knows about someone who you think will be friendly and will be okay with someone asking them about it and their experience in the TEC and what takes them out of the TEC or what something along those lines, please don't hesitate to send it to either Gideon the name or to me for this Writer Guild's piece. Is that correct, Gideon?
Yeah, basically this will be a TEC Medium article, and so we're just, it's really on like what it's like becoming a newcomer, being a newcomer into a DAO, and in particular the TEC. And we want to look at like what's working and what's maybe not working. And stories are probably the best way to do it.
There you go. Thank you. Besides that, we are doing the praise activation campaign. So we are sending messages to people for them to link their wallet to the praise system. We have 200. Let me check. We have about 213 people to outreach. We are around 40% of the people thought of. I think it's a little bit less. But if you have time and you have bandwidth, I share it on the Steward. I share it on the Reward System Working Group text channel. It's the same document we use for outreach most of the times. So if you feel like joining this outreach, it will be highly helpful. The idea is if we don't do it like this, then it has to be done manually, and it will be quite a hassle. So that will be all. I don't know if someone else have something else they would like to comment before we close up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We are on top of the hour. It was so nice to have this session with you all, and I'm looking forward to see you next week. Take care and have an amazing week.
Thank you.